Have you ever eaten a food that made you forget all your problems? Well, let me tell you the story of Chef Bola, whose food can make you forget all your problems. In the busy streets of Lagos, there was a woman named Bola. She owned the most popular restaurant in the whole city. Everyone, from Okada riders to big politicians, loved her food. When you ate Chef Bola's food, all your problems disappeared. You could be broke, sad, or angry, but after eating her food, you'd feel like the happiest person alive. Bola's success made many people jealous. Other restaurant owners in Lagos, like Mama Tope and Baba Ade, whispered behind her back. How is it that Bola's food is so sweet? Abi, she dey use juju? Mama Tope said, rolling her eyes. Baba Ade nodded. She must be doing something. Customers never come to my buka anymore. They only go to her. But no matter how much they gossiped, nobody could figure out her secret. Bola just smiled at them whenever they talked to her. Hard work and prayer, she would say with a wide grin. That's the secret. Bola had an assistant named Seyi, a young man who had worked with her for 2 years. Seyi loved Bola like a mother, but there were some things about her that he found strange. For example, Bola never allowed anyone inside her kitchen when she cooked her special dishes. Seyi, Bola would say, go and sweep the front of the shop, I'll handle the cooking. And whenever Seyi tried to peep inside, Bola would shout, I said, get out! Her voice would shake the walls and Seyi would quickly run away. Another strange thing about Bola was how quickly she healed from injuries. One day while cutting yam in the kitchen, she accidentally sliced her hand. Ah! Seyi shouted. Madam, you've cut yourself! But before he could get a bandage, Bola's wound had already closed. Seyi stared in shock. Madam Bola, how is that possible? Bola quickly hid her hand and laughed. It's nothing, Seyi. God is good, and he always protects me. But Seyi wasn't convinced. He began to suspect that there was something unnatural about Bola. One evening, Seyi stayed back after everyone had gone home. He had been curious about Bola's cooking for a long time. So when she went upstairs to rest, he tiptoed into the kitchen. At first, everything looked normal. Pots, pans, spices. But then he noticed a small black box hidden under the sink. Seyi opened it and gasped. Inside, he saw bundles of hair. Not the kind of hair you'd find in a barber shop. This hair was different. It was short, curly, and looked like it had been cut from somewhere private. What is this? Seyi whispered, his heart pounding. Suddenly, Bola's voice boomed behind him. Seyi, what are you doing there? Seyi jumped and dropped the box. Bola's eyes were dark and cold. You shouldn't have seen that, she said. The next day, people crowded into Bola's restaurant as usual. They laughed, ate, and praised her cooking. Ah, Madam Bola, your jollof rice is magic, one customer said. Another added, after eating here, I forgot I was even broke. God bless you, Ma. Bola smiled sweetly, but inside she felt restless. Seyi had seen her secret, and she couldn't let him talk. A week later, Seyi didn't come to work. Customers asked, where is that your boy Seyi? But Bola just waved them off. He traveled to the village, she lied, but the truth was darker. Seyi had confronted Bola after finding the hair. He begged her to stop. Mama Bola, this thing you're doing, it's not right, Seyi cried. You can't keep adding that to people's food. Bola only smiled. And who will believe you, Seyi? Do you think anyone will stop eating my food because of you? Seyi tried to leave, but Bola had already prepared for him. That night, he disappeared, and nobody ever saw him again. Bola's restaurant grew even more popular. People from all over Lagos came to eat her food. A young journalist named Kemi heard about Bola's restaurant and decided to investigate. How can one woman's food be so powerful? She wondered. Kemi visited the restaurant every day for a week, pretending to be a regular customer. She watched Bola carefully and noticed something odd. Bola always wore a small pouch around her neck. Whenever she cooked, she would touch the pouch and whisper something under her breath. What's in that pouch? Kemi asked herself. I need to find out. But before Kemi could get too close, strange things began happening to her. Her car brakes failed one night and she narrowly escaped an accident. Another time she woke up with a fever so high she thought she would die. Bola, meanwhile, kept smiling. "Stay out of my business, dear," she whispered one night, even though Kemi was sure she hadn't spoken out loud. Bola's restaurant was still the pride of Lagos, but people began to whisper about her husband, Kunle. No one had ever seen him at the restaurant. While Bola's food brought joy to everyone else, Kunle seemed to be the missing piece of her life. One day, Mama Taupe, one of the jealous restaurant owners, couldn't keep quiet anymore. She said to Baba Ade, "Have you ever seen Kunle come here to eat? How can a husband not support his wife's business?" Baba Ade rubbed his chin. You're right-o, it's strange. Maybe they're having problems at home." "But she's always smiling," Mama Taupe replied. "How can she be so happy when her husband doesn't show face? Something isn't adding up." Soon the whole neighborhood began to talk about Kunle. One customer asked, "Madam Bola, why doesn't Ogre Kunle ever come to eat here? Your food is the best in Lagos." Bola just laughed. "Ah, my dear, Kunle is shy. He doesn't like crowds." But another customer whispered, "Abi Kunle don't like her food. Maybe there's something wrong at home." Bola's smile never faded, but inside she felt the tension rising. She couldn't let anyone dig too deep. What nobody knew was that Kunle wasn't missing. He was locked in a room in the back of the house, hidden away from the world. He was weak and pale, with scars all over his body. Every week, Bola would visit him with a sharp knife in her hand and a bucket by her side. "Kunle, my love," she would say sweetly, "you know I can't do this without you." Kunle would groan, his voice barely above a whisper. "Why, Bola? Why are you doing this to me?" She would stroke his face. "Because you're my secret ingredient, darling. The pubic hair, the flesh. It's what makes my food special. And don't worry, it always grows back. You're my miracle." Kunle had tried to escape once, but Bola caught him and punished him by taking more than usual. Now he was too weak to fight back. Meanwhile, the customers kept coming back. Bola's food had an almost magical effect on them. One man said, "Whenever I eat here, I forget all my problems. It's like I'm floating." Another woman added, "I don't even remember what I was worried about before I walked in here. This food is something else." Bola's smile grew wider each day. She loved hearing those words. The more people forgot their worries, the more they came back. One day, a woman named Funke, who ate at Bola's restaurant every day, fell seriously ill. She started losing her hair and feeling weak. Her husband rushed her to the hospital, but the doctors couldn't find anything wrong with her. "It's like her body is just shutting down," the doctor said. Funk's husband went to Bola and begged, "Please pray for my wife, Madam Bola. She loves your food so much. Maybe you can help her." Bola nodded and said, "I will pray for her, but remember, everything is in God's hands." While Funke was fighting for her life, the journalist Kemi decided to visit the restaurant again. She had never forgotten the strange things she noticed before. Kemi started interviewing customers. "What do you like most about Bola's food?" "It makes me forget my problems," one man said. "It's like magic." Kemi frowned. "But have you ever wondered why?" "Food isn't supposed to make you feel like that." The man shrugged. "I don't care as long as it works." Kemi knew there was more to the story, and she was determined to find out. Kemi began digging deeper into the mystery of Chef Bola's food. Every step she took seemed to lead her into something darker. The more she asked questions, the more the customers defended Bola. One day she sat down with a regular customer named Chief Adewale, a wealthy politician who ate at Bola's restaurant daily. "Chief, why do you eat here so often?" Kemi asked. "Don't you think it's strange that Madame Bola's food makes you feel different?" Chief Adewale laughed. "Kemi, you young people like to complicate life. This woman's food is a gift from heaven. It makes me forget my enemies, my debts, and all the stress of Lagos. Why would I question it?" "But Chief," Kemi pressed. Have you ever wondered why? What if something unnatural is happening? Chief's expression changed. Kemi, let me give you advice. Don't dig too much into what doesn't concern you. This life is hard enough. Enjoy the blessings you get. Kemi's investigation was also attracting attention. One evening, as she walked home, a strange woman approached her. Kemi Abi, the woman asked. Yes, who are you? Kemi asked, stepping back cautiously. The woman leaned in close and whispered, Stay away from Bola's restaurant. You're playing with fire. Before Kemi could respond, the woman disappeared into the crowd. Kemi's heart raced. What am I getting myself into? She whispered to herself. Back in Bola's hidden room, Kunle's condition was worsening. His body was covered in scars and his hair was falling out. But no matter how weak he got, his flesh always grew back. Bola, Kunle croaked as she entered the room with her knife. You can't keep doing this. You're killing me. Bola knelt beside him, stroking his face. You don't understand, Kunle. This isn't just about me. The food I make brings happiness to so many people. You're helping me change lives. Kunle turned his head away. You're a monster, Bola. One day someone will find out and you'll pay for this. Bola's smile hardened. No one will ever know, Kunle. And if they do, they won't live to tell the story. Mama Taupe had always been Bola's biggest competitor and harshest critic. Though her buka, small eatery, couldn't compare to Bola's grand restaurant, Mama Taupe was a stubborn woman who wouldn't stop stirring trouble. She would stand outside her shop, pointing at Bola's customers as they passed. You people don't know what you're eating, oh, Mama Taupe would shout. Better come and eat real food here. No magic, no juju. One evening, Mama Taupe decided she'd had enough of Bola's growing success. I will show her today, she muttered to herself. She marched to Bola's restaurant, determined to confront her publicly. When she arrived, she found Bola alone, cleaning up for the day. Bola! Mama Taupe shouted, her voice echoing in the empty space. I don't know what you're doing to these people, but it will not last. I will expose you. Bola turned around slowly, wiping her hands on her apron. Her warm smile didn't falter. Ah, Mama Taupe. You're welcome. What can I do for you this late? Stop pretending, Bola, Mama Taupe snapped. You think I don't know something is wrong with this place? No one's food is that good. What's your secret? Bola stepped closer, her smile tightening. Mama Taupe, I work hard. That's my secret. But you spend too much time talking instead of cooking. Maybe that's why your customers are leaving. Mama Taupe fumed. You think you're smart, eh? We'll see who has the last laugh. She stormed out, but as she walked home, she felt uneasy. The street was darker than usual, and every sound seemed louder. As she approached a narrow alley, she thought she saw someone standing at the far end. Who's there? Mama Taupe called out. No answer. She quickened her pace, but the figure began moving toward her. Mama Taupe, a familiar voice said softly. It was Bola, but her tone was ice cold. How did you... Mama Taupe stammered, stepping back. Bola's smile was gone. I told you, Mama Taupe, you talk too much. Before Mama Taupe could scream, the shadows swallowed her whole. The next morning, her buka remained locked, her pots untouched. People whispered, but no one dared to ask questions. Baba Ade couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible had happened to Mama Taupe. He had seen her arguing with Bola the night before, and now, nothing. She must have gone too far, Baba Ade muttered. But I won't stop. I'll find out what's going on here. He decided to watch Bola more closely. Every night he hid near her house, waiting to catch her in the act. One night he saw her carrying a large sack out of the back door and loading it into a wheelbarrow. Where is she going at this hour? Baba Ade whispered to himself. He followed her, staying far enough behind so she wouldn't notice. Bola walked through the quiet streets until she reached a deserted part of town. She stopped at an old, abandoned well and began lowering the sack inside. Baba Ade's heart pounded. What's in that sack, he wondered. As Bola turned to leave, Baba Ade accidentally stepped on a twig. The sound echoed in the silence. "Who's there?" Bola called out, her voice sharp. Baba Ade froze, holding his breath. After a tense moment, Bola shrugged and walked away. Baba Ade waited until she was gone before approaching the well. He shone his flashlight down but saw nothing but darkness. "I need to come back with help," he thought. The next day, Baba Ade tried to convince some of the other men in the neighborhood to help him investigate. "Something is not right with that woman," he said. "She's hiding something big. Mama Tope is gone, and now she's dumping sacks in abandoned wells at night." The men laughed. "Ah, Baba Ade, you and your stories. Leave Madam Bola alone. She's just a hard-working woman." Frustrated, Baba Ade realized he was on his own. He decided to return to the well that night, but this time he would come prepared. Bola, meanwhile, felt the pressure mounting. She noticed Baba Ade watching her from across the street and knew he was getting too close. "Kunle," she said that evening as she sat beside him in the hidden room, "someone is sniffing around. I think Baba Ade knows something." Kunle, weak but defiant, chuckled bitterly. "Good. Maybe he'll finally stop you." Bola's smile vanished. "You should be careful, Kunle. I've let you live because you're useful to me. Don't push me." Kunle looked her in the eyes. "You're afraid, Bola. You can't keep this up forever." That night, Baba Ade returned to the well with a rope and a flashlight. He tied the rope to a nearby tree and lowered himself inside. The stench grew stronger as he descended, and soon he saw something glistening in the dim light. At the bottom of the well, he found bones. Human bones. Baba Ade's stomach churned. "What is this woman doing?" Before he could climb back up, he heard a voice above him. Well, Baba Ade," Bola said, her voice echoing down the well. "I warned you to mind your business." Baba Ade looked up, his flashlight shaking. "Bola, you can't do this." Bola smiled down at him, holding a large rock. "Goodbye, Baba Ade." She dropped the rock, and the last thing Baba Ade saw was her cold, unblinking stare. Kemi noticed Baba Ade's absence almost immediately. He was a regular in the neighborhood, always quick with his sharp tongue and wild theories about everything. But now, his usual spot near the street corner was empty, and no one seemed to care. She mentioned it to her friend Said over a bowl of amala at Bola's restaurant. "Sada, have you seen Baba Ade lately?" Kemi asked, lowering her voice. I haven't. Saad replied, tearing into her meat. "Maybe he went to his village." Kemi frowned. "That's what everyone says, but he didn't mention anything. And you know Baba Ade, he doesn't just disappear like that." Kemi, Said said, rolling her eyes. "Maybe he's hiding because of debt. Leave him, jaw, and enjoy this food. Don't let Bola catch you talking nonsense." Kemi sighed and poked at her food. "Something doesn't feel right," she murmured, more to herself than to Said. Kemi couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was happening. She decided to investigate further. Late one night, she slipped into the alley behind Bola's restaurant, hoping to find some clues. As she rummaged through the trash bins, she found something odd. Pieces of cloth that looked like they had been cut from a man's shirt. The fabric was stained with something dark and sticky. "What is this?" Kemi whispered, holding the cloth up to her flashlight. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her. She spun around, her heart pounding. "What are you doing here?" a voice demanded. "Who are you?" Kemi asked, trying to sound brave. The man stepped closer, his face partially hidden by the shadows. "My name is Olamide, and I'm here for the same reason you are. I want to know the truth about Madam Bola." Kemi narrowed her eyes. "Why? What do you know?" Olamide hesitated before answering. "Let's just say I've seen things that don't make sense, people disappearing, strange noises coming from her house at night, and that food of hers, it's not natural." Kemi's stomach churned. "So, you believe she's hiding something?" "I know she is," Olamide replied, "and I think I know where to find proof. But I need your help." Olamide explained his plan. They would follow Bola the next time she left her restaurant late at night. "She's hiding something, and it's not in the restaurant. It's somewhere else," he said. Kemi hesitated. This is dangerous. If she catches us, she won't, Olamide assured her. But if we don't act now, more people will disappear. Maybe Baba Ad already has. Kemi swallowed hard and nodded. Okay, let's do it. A week later, Kemi and Olamide waited in the shadows outside Bola's house. Sure enough, just after midnight, Bola emerged, carrying a large sack over her shoulder. She's heading to the same place Baba Ade talked about, Olamide whispered. They followed her at a safe distance as she made her way to the old well at the edge of the neighborhood. When Bola reached the well, she began lowering the sack inside, just as she had before. Now, Olamide whispered, motioning for Kemi to follow him. They crept closer, staying hidden behind some bushes. Suddenly, Kemi's foot slipped, snapping a twig. Bola froze. Who's there? She called out, her voice cold and sharp. Olamide grabbed Kemi's arm. Stay down, he hissed. Bola scanned the area for a moment before returning to her task. She muttered something under her breath, words Kemi couldn't understand, and the well began to glow faintly. What is she doing? Kemi whispered, her heart racing. I don't know, Olamide replied, but it's not normal. Kemi and Olamide's hearts pounded in their chests as they crouched in the shadows, trying not to make a sound. Bola had dropped the sack into the well, and now she was chanting something low under her breath. The eerie glow that had briefly surrounded the well began to intensify. What is she doing? Kemi whispered, barely able to contain her fear. I don't know, but we need to find out. Olamide's voice was tight with urgency. They waited until Bola turned her back, then cautiously moved closer to the well's edge. Kemi, trembling, peered down into the darkness below. She could see something, shiny, wet, and vaguely human-shaped, glinting in the faint light. Bola was still muttering the strange incantation, oblivious to their presence. Kemi swallowed hard, her stomach turning. Olamide, I think that's a body down there. Olamide's eyes widened. What? No, it can't be. But when the light flickered again, they both saw it, bones tied together with what appeared to be string. Blood and flesh still clung to parts of the body, and it was clear that it wasn't just any ordinary remains. It was a person, someone who had been discarded. I think that's Baba Adi, Kemi gasped. She must have... Olamide held up a hand, signaling for her to be quiet. We need to leave, now. But as they turned to retreat, they heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps. They froze, but it was too late. The same thing that happened to Mama Taupe, Babe Aid, and Si happened to Kemi and Olamide. Olamide was the only shot to rescuing Kunle because Olamide's connection to Kunle was not just a distant family link. It was something much more personal. Olamide was Kunle's nephew, the only surviving relative from his side of the family. Years ago, Kunle had lost his entire family to a tragic car accident. Olamide was just a young boy at the time, and Kunle had taken him in, raising him like a son. They shared a bond forged from loss and survival. But something had changed between them, something that Olamide didn't quite understand. When Kunle had married Bola, Olamide had been wary of her. There was something about her that felt off. However, he couldn't pinpoint it. Over the years, he tried to stay away from their marriage, but the nagging feeling in his gut never went away. And now, seeing the signs of strange happenings surrounding Bola's restaurant, he couldn't ignore the growing suspicion that something was deeply wrong. But he met his end. Bola wasn't always this way. Before she married Kunle, she had been a humble woman working as a cook in a small food joint in Lagos. Her food wasn't anything extraordinary, but she had a knack for making people feel at ease. She loved watching her customers smile, their worries momentarily forgotten after eating her meals. However, Bola had always been plagued with one deep fear: poverty. Her mother had died young, leaving her to struggle with a life full of hardship. She grew up hungry, always yearning for better days, dreaming of a life filled with luxury and comfort. But dreams didn't feed you. And Bola realized that early on. She saw how people in the city, especially the wealthy, lived. People who could have whatever they wanted whenever they wanted. She watched men like Kunle, who had everything and more, and it made her heart ache. Then, one fateful day, Bola met a stranger who promised her a shortcut. He was an old herbalist whose reputation for curing the incurable was known all over Lagos. He whispered to her of powerful potions, charms, and dark rituals that could make her dreams a reality. She was hesitant at first, but desperation led her to listen. And when he offered her a charm, one that would give her immense power to control those around her, to ensure her food became more than just nourishment, but a means of control, Bola took the bait. The charm required something extreme. It needed the essence of life, something truly powerful. That's when she decided to use Kunle. His flesh, his hair, his blood, they would be her ingredients. By making his essence part of her food, she could use it to cast a spell on her customers, to make them return again and again, to forget their problems and become obsessed with her food. But the most twisted part of it all was that Kunle, her husband, didn't know the extent of her actions. She told him it was for a special recipe, convincing him that it was necessary for her cooking, promising that it would improve their life. She manipulated his love for her to hide the truth. In her mind, she was doing it all for them, to escape poverty, to gain power, to create a life beyond her wildest dreams. What she didn't know was that the more she used Kunle's essence, the more she was losing herself. The charm was a double-edged sword. The magic was powerful, but it was also slowly consuming her sanity. Months later, following Sei, Mama Tope, Baba Ade, Olamide, and Kemi's mysterious disappearance, Madame Bola visited the herbalist and presented him with gifts, expressing her gratitude for his unwavering discretion. "I assured you that no one would ever discover the truth," he said. "Thank you so much, Baba. I've managed to handle everyone trying to expose me," Bola responded. "Rest assured, my dear, your secret ingredient will remain hidden as long as you continue to treat me well," the herbalist said, extending his hand toward Madame Bola, caressing her thighs. And so, Bola continued to prepare dishes that made her customers forget their troubles, with no one daring to question the origins of her culinary magic.